Chapter 44, Mutants 1 and 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44 Mutants number 1 and 5. The sound of footsteps sounded slowly in the silent corridor. A group of 4 people quickly arrived at the cell where number 1 was imprisoned. Looking at this prison cell, which was no less strict than his own, or even more strict, a strong fear flashed through number 5's eyes. Even he is very afraid of the people inside, not only because the people inside are powerful, but also because the other party has the title of mutant nemesis. Thinking of the pulse interference, a look of disgust flashed across number 5's eyes. The 4 of them looked inside. A middle-aged man who looked about 2 meters tall, extremely burly, and whose whole body seemed to be made of brown metal was lying on the white iron bed with his eyes closed at the moment. Hearing the sound of footsteps, number 1 opened his eyes and looked over. Number 1, there is a task that the base needs you to do. The leader of the prison guard, Marco, opened the cell door and walked over to number 1 to help him unchain. As the chains came off, number 1 stretched his body, a ferocious look flashed across his face, and he said in a rough voice, "Mission? Is there a task that I need to do? What mission is worth my while?" Looking at the prison guards, there was a hint of disdain on his face, feeling that they were making a fuss and asking him to take action on even the smallest of things. "And, you want to bring number 5 with you?" There was a hint of anger on number 1's metal face. Feeling humiliated, Marco glanced at him and said, "The enemy is very difficult, a powerful mutant, and this is the order of the base commander Alessandro." Hearing that the enemy is very difficult, especially the mutants, number 1 doesn't care anymore, and looks a little irritable, so he will sneer and ridicule. However, when he heard the name Alessandro, the sarcastic expression on his face stopped and turned into respect. Not only him, but number 5 next to him also had a similar expression. Mako smiled, turned around and walked out with a few people. They walked all the way out and past the area where ordinary prisoners were. In an instant, the prisoners who were still talking stopped talking, and the scene became so quiet that you could almost hear a pin drop. It's number 1 and there's number 5. Looking at number 1, who was dressed in metallic luster, and number 5, who was calm and indifferent, the prisoners remained silent, with a faint flash of fear in their eyes. No one knows the horror of these 2 monsters better than them. They still remember that once a strong black man wanted to tease number 5, but number 5 was restrained by the mutant controller and used energy shock forcefully. The red energy covered the man in an instant. In less than 2 seconds, the man turned into black coal and fell to the ground, dying miserably. Not to mention, this number 5 has the ability to heal himself at a super speed. He is like an invincible cockroach. No one can be his opponent. Number 1 was more direct. He punched the person who offended him, and the limbs flew everywhere. I don't know how many people were scared to pee at that time. And no matter who they are after that, as long as they provoke them, no one will end well. So facing these 2 people, both ordinary prisoners and mutants are afraid of them, not only because of their strength, but also because of their cruelty and ruthlessness, and they kill without blinking an eye. Glancing at these people, number 1's eyes flashed with sarcasm, and he looked down on them, or in other words, he looked down on anyone ranked below him. After they left, the prisoners started talking. What are those 3 people doing with number 1 and number 5? Have you forgotten about the 37th? The prisoners who were still a little confused at first suddenly realized it, and then began to gloat and pity. Number 37 is really doomed this time. No one can be a match for those 2 monsters. Yes, even if number 37 is good, it's over this time. Oh, I hope number 37 can survive. Even the freckled young man who had talked to Suyao before shook his head. God bless you. At this moment, some people have begun to bet on whether number 37 will be brought back with his limbs broken or whether he will die a violent death. In short, no one thinks that number 1 and number 5 will fail. Stepping out of the experimental base, number 5 frowned slightly and asked, "Where are you taking us to find the mission target you mentioned?" Mako smiled slightly and said, "It's hard to find position 37. The guy keeps changing positions. We need to wait for a mutant codenamed Hound. But this Hound is on a mission and can't come yet, so it will take some time to wait." Speaking, he continued to speak while leading the way. "Now I'm going to take you to capture another mutant so that you can get used to each other and even learn to cooperate, so that you don't make mistakes when dealing with that 37. Hearing about cooperation, both number 1 and number 5 were somewhat disapproving. They believe that there is no need for cooperation at all and that number 37 can be solved by themselves, and, number 37. Number 1 was slightly angry and said, "You are so solemn and you just want us to catch the so-called number 37, Hearing the ranking of number 37, he knew the strength of number 37, as he thought about it, there was a faint look of disdain on his face, not only him, number 5 on the side also had a look of disbelief, thinking that he had heard wrongly, and number 37. Is it actually worth them to take action? Mako glanced at them and explained, "When another mutant is captured, I will explain it to you, and by the way, I will show you the information video of 37. Remember, that number 37 is not easy to deal with. He is not as simple as you think." Hearing what he said, number 1 and number 5 still looked indifferent. They even thought he was making a fuss and asked them to watch some information video. It was simply ridiculous. Does this person not know the strength of the two of them? The 5 people got into the car and drove away. Half an hour later, they stopped the car outside the gate of a house. After getting out of the car, Marco helped number 1 and the 2 to unlock the mutant controller. After that, they walked towards the house where the target was. Bang bang bang. After a knock on the door, a teenage voice came from the house, "Who?" With a click, the door was opened. A head with blonde hair was exposed from the crack in the door. Fabian, who looked very childish, looked at a few people in confusion, and then his expression suddenly changed. Whether it was number 1's ordinary metal body or the prison guard uniforms worn by the Marcos, they all made him feel uneasy. Boom. Mako held the door that was about to close with his hand and said in a serious voice, "We received a call from the public saying that Mr. Fabian, you have used superpowers." End of this chapter. Chapter 45, Surprise number 1 and number 5, please vote for me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45 Surprise number 1 and number 5, please vote for me. Before he could finish his words, Fabian's face changed as he realized their purpose, and then he used his ability. With a bang, invisible power surged out of him and rushed towards the 5 people outside the door. The expressions on the faces of the 3 prison guards and Mako suddenly changed. They didn't even have time to fire their guns. They flew backwards and fell the lawn a few meters away. Number 5 was in the same situation. He was accidentally hit by telekinesis and flew several meters away. On the way, he had some scratches on his body, but he was back to normal within a few seconds. As for number 1, it didn't even move at all. The luster of metal flashed across his body, and he stood still on the spot, as if he were an iron pillar, not moving at all. After trying a few more times, Fabian's expression suddenly changed. He found that his telekinesis was powerless against the other party. Number 1 smiled ferociously. Little thing. Fabian was panicked and immediately looked at the firearms scattered on the ground. 3 black pistols floated together, and then the muzzles of the guns were turned and pointed at number 1, as if they were about to shoot in the next second. But before Fabian could control the gun and fire, number 1's actions interrupted him. There was a yellow light in number 1's eyes, and a strange noise echoed around, and then, bang, bang, several pistols lost their support and instantly fell to the ground. My ability. Fabian had a look of disbelief on his face, looking at the metal man with yellow eyes in fear. Ah! With a blush on his face, Fabian wanted to use his telekinesis, but no matter how many times he tried, he failed. Under the interference of an inexplicable force, he directly lost the ability to control his telekinesis. Number 1 looked disdainful, grabbed the clothes on Fabian's chest, and lifted him up very easily. Waste. As he said that, he ignored Fabian's struggle and threw Fabian directly in front of Marco. Okay, I'll leave it to you. It's really boring. Number 1 turned around and walked towards the car. Number 5's eyes flashed with fear, and he slowly followed him. Mako looked surprised and sighed. I was still thinking about asking them to cooperate. It seems number 1's ability can really restrain mutants. While shaking his head, he walked towards the car with the desperate Fabian. On the way, Fabian saw the metal man walking away, and he was trying to use his mutant abilities, but what made him despair was that the metal man's ability had an unexpectedly wide range of influence, and he still couldn't use it. Arriving in the car, Marco handcuffed Fabian's hands and put a mutant controller on his neck. Fabian gave up struggling and desperately accepted the reality. At this time, Marco looked at number 1, whose eyes returned to normal. I underestimated you. After apologizing, Marco turned to Crowley and said, show number 1 and number 5 the information video of number 37. Crowley nodded, took out a silver tablet from his seat, and handed it to number 1. Number 1 and number 5 were a little indifferent and felt that it was unnecessary. However, they were still idle, so they turned their attention to the tablet. As the video played on the tablet, number 1 and number 5 had a look of surprise in their eyes. Even Fabian, whose eyes looked desperate, now turned to astonishment. As the tablet played, the abilities and battle scenes of number 37 came into view. Whether it was the space movement that disappeared instantly, or the emission of black particles, or the emission of blue energy pillars, or the rebounding bullets, everything surprised them. Watching the video, the boy was surrounded by fire and killed many people one after another. Fabian's eyes showed admiration. As for number 1 and number 5, there was also surprise in their eyes. Is this number 37? Number 5, who seldom spoke, asked with a surprised look on his face. This guy has so many abilities. Intrinsic. Mako nodded, seeing his response. The surprise in the eyes of number 1 and number 5 became stronger, and at the same time, a touch of jealousy arose in their hearts. Even they have gone through many experiments and survived only to have the abilities they have now. Why is this number 37? TSK, what a lucky boy. Number 1 clicked his tongue, then his face returned to calm, and he said nonchalantly, it's useless no matter how powerful you are, as long as he touches me, he will be finished. Let alone have the ability to pulse interference. Even if he didn't, he wouldn't be afraid of the so-called number 37. Number 5 on the side also had a similar expression. After being surprised, he became indifferent and agreed with what number 1 said. Although he can't stand number 1, he has to say that the opponent's ability is so powerful that there is no mutant that cannot be restrained. Even without number 1, relying on his own energy impact, he can still make that kid kneel down and beg for mercy. At this moment, he was already looking forward to meeting number 37, so that he could teach him a lesson. At this time, Marco shook his head and said, although 37's limit has been tested and his abilities are also demonstrated in this video, you still have to be careful. After all, number 37 has a lot of abilities. If you're not careful, you may be injured, so you still need to be vigilant. Finally, he said, you can get used to it at the base during this period. When the mutant hound is deployed, we will set out to capture number 37. Fabian on the side fell into silence, showing sympathy for the number 37 in their mouths. I don't know when this number 37 will be caught. It's no wonder he thinks so. This metal man is really too strong. What a ability. Thinking about it, he glanced at the other faceless person next to him, and felt even more sympathy for number 37. Don't think about it, this other one is definitely not easy to deal with either. While they were rushing towards experimental base number 23, the internet was also turbulent at this time. In order to appease netizens, the beautiful and Irene especially held a live broadcast. At this moment, under the gaze of hundreds of thousands of spectators, she was wearing a black and white dress, with a charming smile on her face, and she explained softly, viewers, don't worry. According to the secret information I got from Irina, the mutant boy will be caught soon. As she spoke, the smile on her face became even more charming. It is said that the relevant department sent their secret weapons this time. As for what the secret weapon is, I'll give it a try here first. As long as everyone knows, the young man will never be able to escape this time. Irina is smiling. If there is any latest news, this station will report it to you as soon as possible. After saying that, Irina ended the live broadcast of the program. However, it was over for her. Netizens started talking enthusiastically after hearing her words. End of this chapter. Chapter 46, X-Men and Magneto in Action. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 46, The Actions of the X-Men and Magneto, Secret Weapon. Irina looks very confident, she won't fail this time. I'm really curious, that Irina is so sure, he can't escape that fugitive. Agree. Netizens are talking a lot and have expectations in their hearts. they were already a little impatient and wanted to hear Irina announce that they had captured the mutant fugitive. This time, I don't know if it will be broadcast live. Netizens are curious and expectant, while ordinary people were discussing when the fugitive would be defeated by a secret weapon and captured. The mutants who saw the news and some of Su Yao's acquaintances became worried. In the dark underground passage, this little guy, Wolverine Logan, put down the cigar in his hand, his eyebrows knitted together, and he felt a little worried. Chris next to him sighed and said, "I hope he can be safe." Otto and Valentine looked at each other. "Do we need to help him?" Otto raised his hand and said. Valentine shook his head, rejected his idea, and said, "How can we help? We don't even know where he is. Now I can only pray that he will survive this danger." Hearing this, Chris frowned and said, "The news revealed by Irina must not be false. The person who captured Su must have prepared a secret weapon this time. This Irina's tone is very confident. Su is very likely." He opened his mouth to say something, but in the end he didn't say it, but everyone around him understood what he meant. Thinking about it, it's right. Judging from the strength Su showed not long ago, he is still not invincible. There are many ways to deal with him: poisoning, sniper assassination, a group of well-armed men surrounding and killing, and weapons targeting the X gene. Just thinking about it, they could think of many ways to restrain Su, not to mention the methods that Irina could call a secret weapon, which must be even more terrifying. At this time, Logan spoke. "Hey, that little guy is in danger. We can't do nothing. We should look for him and try to rescue him." Chris nodded and expressed his willingness to go out and look for it. Otto and Valentine hesitated for a while, then took one last look at them and chose to agree to the matter. After a few people made preparations, they immediately walked out of the sewer and started searching, trying to find Su before the government people found him, in addition to Wolverine Logan and others who saw Irina's live broadcast. The bald Professor X, who was far away in X Academy, also said something to Cyclops Scott. With a serious face, "Scott, has the Omega mutant been found?" Scott, standing aside, shook his head. Upon hearing this, Professor At this time, Cyclops Scott couldn't hold back and asked doubtfully, "Professor, is that Omega mutant really that important? We must find him." Professor, the power of Omega-level mutants cannot be evaluated according to common sense. Scott was a little shocked when he heard this. Infinite levels? Are Omega mutants really that strong? How big is the difference between level 4 and level 4? He was surprised here. Professor X, Charles, sighed and said worriedly, "Find it as soon as possible." After saying that, he looked at Scott. "Scott, just try your best to find the Omega mutants. Now you need to help another child first." Hearing this, Scott instantly understood what the professor meant and nodded. "Professor, I will take people to rescue that child. I'll call Chin and the others." After saying that, he walked out of the office and went to find Chin and Storm. "Professor." More than half an hour later, Cyclops, who was looking for people, got on the flying fighter plane and took the people to fly towards the target city. There is action on the X-Men side, and there is also action on Magneto. Eric and the Brotherhood of Mutants. Eric turned to look at Mystique and asked, "Riven, why haven't you found the person you asked to find?" The slender, blue-skinned Mystique Raven shook her head. "That kid is so good at running away, I really can't find him." She had infiltrated the government department, but they couldn't even find anyone, let alone find one by herself. Hearing Mystique's explanation, Eric frowned and was not satisfied with her answer. "Keep an eye on the people in those departments to see when they go to find that guy, and you can sneak in if necessary." Eric ordered. Mystique Raven nodded, turned around and prepared to leave, but before she could leave, Magneto Eric's voice sounded behind her. "By the way, where's the Omega mutant I asked you to find?" Mystique Raven shook her head. Magneto Eric's brows furrowed even more, looking at her back disappearing. Eric suddenly laughed. Old friend, let's see who can find the Omega mutant first." While the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants were taking action, Eddie, who was on the run with Venom, saw this news soon after. Eddie didn't think much about it and forgot about it after reading it. In addition to these people, Heidi and the 3 people who had been approached by the underground organization together with Su Yao and had some interactions with him also knew the news because they were always paying attention to his news. At this moment, they looked at each other head-on. After they parted ways, The three of them asked some mutants what the ultimate threat meant. It's just that many people don't know what it is. However, in the end, they also had some guesses, and they guessed that there was a high probability that they were level 4, or even level 5 or even Omega level mutants. Level 5 and Omega levels are probably quite possible. They were shocked, facing the news that Sue was being hunted. They felt a little complicated and didn't know whether they should help their friend. At noon, the sky was gloomy and covered with dark clouds, as if a storm was about to come. Sunshine experience +1. Sunshine experience +1. At this moment, Suyao is practicing hard to shine under the sun. Ability, Sunshine, 11 out of 500, level 2, glancing at the panel, he secretly complained, this weather. Had it not been for the weather, the progress I had made after practicing all morning would not have been this little. Update in the morning, don't wait, everyone go to bed early. End of this chapter. Chapter 47, Lock Suyao's Position. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 47, Locking Suyao's Position. Uffle, the slightly moist wind blew and heavy rain fell from the sky. Suyao frowned, temporarily stopped practicing his movements in the sun, and walked under the building to hide from the rain. It was not until night that the heavy rain stopped. Ability, Sunshine, 19 out of 500, level 2, looking at the panel, Suyao shook his head, looking forward to the sun tomorrow. Time passed and soon the next day came, sunny, as the sun shines on the body, prompt sound. Light energy +1. Light energy +1, while he was practicing and the sun was shining, the person they were waiting for was also waiting at base 23, base 23. Finally come. Number 1 and number 5, who were already waiting a little impatiently, looked at the person who was being brought in the distance. Prison guards Marco, Captain Kenny, and Captain George were among them. In addition, there were a dozen well-armed soldiers, and among them were hounds. This man was wearing grey clothes, had yellow hair, and had an ordinary face. He looked about 30 years old and looked very ordinary. Is he the hound? As the others approached, number 1 asked impatiently. Captain Kenny next to the hound nodded and said, yes, he is the hound. As he spoke, he took out a pillow that the mutant boy had used, and then handed it to the hound. Under the gaze of number 1 and number 5, the hound took the pillow and sniffed it carefully, and then began to look for something around the base. Soon, he was walking straight in one direction, and seemed to have locked onto the traces of scent molecules left behind by his target. Seeing that the hound had determined its direction, Captain George and Captain Kenny secretly breathed a sigh of relief. They were also afraid that the heavy rain last night would destroy the traces. They didn't expect that mutants were mutants and could still find people by following the traces after so long. Everyone got into the car and followed the hound. The hound seemed to be like a hound, running very fast in front. Time passed, and soon half an hour passed. Suddenly, the hound running in front slowly stopped. The area ahead is very remote, and even the streets and houses look dirty and old. Are you close to where number 37 is hiding? Getting off the car, Captain George's eyes lit up and excitement showed on his face. Hound nodded. I found it. Ha ha ha, number 37, let's see how you run this time. Captain Kenny next to him laughed ferociously. Captain George also sneered, on the 37th, just follow us back and do the experiment. That everyone started to make arrangements. With a click, 5 black sentinel spiders crawled out of the safe, their mechanical eyes glowing red. At the same time, prison guard Mako led 2 people towards a tall building in the distance. They will monitor the target from a high place and use a drone to lock the target's location. If they find traces of the other party, they will immediately tell George and others the exact location where the target escaped through the communicator. Originally, there is no need to do this when there are hounds around, but I am afraid that something might happen to the other party, so I do this just in case. Looking at the remaining 10 or so people, number 5 said nonchalantly, leave this battle to us. You can watch the show or assist. Captain George and Captain Kenny nodded, feeling very confident. They were discussing here, and Suyao also noticed something unusual at this time. Su, be careful. Venom suddenly emerged from his right hand, and he looked into the distance with a solemn expression. Suyao frowned slightly and became wary. He knew that Venom's perception was very keen, and he must have sensed something. Bounce shield experience +1. An invisible rebound shield appears in front. Suyao cautiously approached the outside and looked into the distance. The next second, his expression changed slightly. a group of familiarly dressed people stood in the distance, and one of them pointed at this place, as if to say that the target was inside. Space transfer experience +1. Space transfer experience +1. In Venom's blank gaze, his figure disappeared from the spot. However, what made Su Yao's face darken was that no matter where he was hiding, people in the distance always seemed to be able to find his location. Su Yao knew that if these people were not dealt with, he would not be able to leave. The next second, he maintained the rebound shield and walked out. The open space in the distance, under the gaze of a pair of eyes, a mysterious figure wearing black clothes and his face covered by a black hood slowly walked out. "You're finally out." Captain Kenny laughed ferociously and said, "Let's see how you run this time." At this time, a faint smile appeared on Metal Number 1's face. "Are you the waste number 37 they call you?" Number 5's expression was very dull. At this time, Captain Kenny sneered again. "Do you know who they are? Compared to them, you are nothing. This time you just follow us back to the laboratory, ha ha ha." That he laughed heartily, relieving himself from the grievances he had felt several times. "This time, I can finally give this guy a good look." Captain Kenny is in a very good mood. Captain George on the side was in a similar mood, with a smile on his face. Number 5 has super speed, self-healing and energy shock. Number 1 has a metal body, enhanced strength, enhanced 5 senses, and most importantly, pulse interference. How to deal with this guy? He sneered. After a while, even if number 37 wants to run away, he won't be able to escape. Having lost his abilities, he is just an ordinary person on the 37th, so what can he do to resist? Su Yao tilted his head and said, "Really? Ha." Seeing that he was unrepentant, Captain George sneered, "Soon you will see how powerful they are, and you will be miserable." When he finished speaking, number 5 stood up and said calmly and indifferently, "Okay, let me play with you first." Number 1 glanced at him, crossed his arms, and said nothing. Although he despises number 5, it can be said to be more than enough to deal with number 37. "I'm afraid that number 37 will die if we meet him face to face, right?" Captain George and the others next to him were also worried that number 5 would take action without knowing the importance of it, and that number 37 would die like this. With everyone watching, number 5 took action. In an instant, terrifying red energy rose from number 5, even distorting the surrounding light. The air wave swept across, and George and others next to him were forced to retreat continuously, with shock on their faces. What terrifying energy! As soon as this thought came to mind, red energy several meters high burst out in the next second, sweeping towards number 37 like a giant wave. Boom! Wherever it passed, the ground was wiped out inch by inch. As everyone watched in shock, red energy flooded Su Yao. "It's over on the 37th. This idea came to everyone's mind. Next second. End of this chapter. Chapter 48, Incredible Number 1 and Others. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 48, The Incredible Number 1 and Others. Seeing number 5's red energy engulfing number 37, at this moment, no one thought he could survive. Number 5's eyes were dull, as if he had been used to it for a long time. Number 1 shook his head. Captain George had a sneer on his face. "I told you to go back to the laboratory with us. Why didn't you listen?" Captain Kenny was a little regretful, complaining that number 5's shots were too heavy. "What a pity, it seems you can't run away this time, ha ha ha." However, when the red energy swept through, something happened that shocked them. The red light gradually faded away, and the young man's figure appeared on the spot safe and sound, as if he was unscathed and nothing had happened. "What? Number 37 is not dead? Impossible." Captain Kenny stared at Su Yao, who was standing unharmed, in disbelief. "How can everything be okay?" Captain George couldn't believe it, and the sneer on his face froze. Number 5's calm expression was gone, and his eyes that were clenched with boredom suddenly widened. Number 1's eyes showed surprise. "How so?" Just when they couldn't believe it, they heard the young man not far away say calmly, "Give it back to you." The next second, something horrified them happened. Boom! Huge red energy appeared in front of Su Yao, and then rushed towards number 5. Number 5 was in disbelief. He had no time to think about it and hurriedly used red energy to block it. Boom! A red light flashed, and when everything calmed down, Captain Kenny and others' eyes widened in disbelief. Number 5 was completely charred and black, with severe burns on the outside. Most of his clothes were carbonized and disappeared, making him look miserable. I don't know if it was because I reacted too late or because of something else, but number 5 didn't completely block it. However, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that number 37 in front of me can actually use the ability of number 5. This is impossible. Captain Kenny couldn't accept it and shouted, "How did you do it? How could you have this ability? Is it possible that your previous performances were not your limit?" He couldn't believe it. Next to him, Captain George, number 1, and a dozen soldiers were all in disbelief. This number 37 has too many abilities, right? Others were shocked, number 1 and number 5, with uncontrollable jealousy in their eyes. Why can he have so many abilities even though he is a mutant? Unfair. However, although the opponent has many abilities, it does not mean that they are afraid. Under Su Yao's surprised gaze, number 5's carbonized body began to change, the muscles squirm and recover one by one, the dark carbon tissue falls off, and the skin is rapidly formed. Soon, number 5, who seemed to have shed his skin, appeared in everyone's sight. Is this super speed self-healing? It's really powerful. Captain Kenny and others had strange expressions on their faces. Judging from number 5's previous injuries, ordinary people would probably die before the wound could become infected. Number 5 didn't even arrive for a minute, and he actually recovered. What kind of terrifying resilience is this? No wonder this number 5 is called a monster. A dozen soldiers showed fear in their eyes. If he keeps recovering like this, who can beat him, who can kill him? Captain George sneered and said, "You can't kill number 5. Did you see that? Stop struggling. You can't resist. If you resist, you will end up in despair." At this moment, others also regained their confidence. With number 5's super speed healing and number 1's ability, what can number 37 do to resist? At this time, number 5's eyes flashed with red light. "You me off." "Really?" Su Yao asked calmly. Under everyone's expectant gaze, red energy emerged from number 5's body again. He stretched out his hand, and red energy bombs appeared. Boom! Number 5 threw it out. With everyone watching, the boy whose face was covered by a black hood raised his right hand and swatted at the red energy ball, as if swatting an annoying fly. Boom! Click! The sound of breaking glass sounded. In the stunned gaze of everyone, including Venom, the red energy ball flew back at an unimaginable speed. Ah! Number 5 screamed. The red energy ball hit him and sent him flying backwards. The figure flashed past, and with a bang, he hit the wall not far away. In the cracks in the wall, everyone could faintly hear the sound of cracking bones. Looking at the embarrassed number 5, and then at Su Yao who lightly swatted away the red energy ball as if swatting a fly, everyone's faces were dull. What's going on here? How so? They couldn't believe what they saw. Number 5 is like an ant, unable to stop being beaten. This number 37, at this time, number 1, who was covered in rocky metal color, stood up, glancing at number 5, his rough face twitched and he said impatiently, "Number 5, you are really getting more and more alive. You can't even deal with a child. What a waste." In the distance, number 5, who was lying on the ground, got up with a look of unwillingness on his face. Number 1's yellow eyes turned to Su Yao, with a sinister smile on his rough face. "Boy, don't think you can win by beating number 5 into such a mess. I'm different from him. He's a loser, and He gave a grim laugh. The next moment, under everyone's excited and expectant gaze, his eyes flashed with yellow light. It's pulse interference. Captain George and others were refreshed, with smiles on their faces. Number 1's eyes flashed with yellow light while he smiled ferociously. "With my pulse interference, you can't use your mutant abilities at all. How about it? Do you feel like you have power but you can't use it? Ha ha ha." Number 1 laughed. At this time, number 5, who was deliberately shielded from the pulse interference by him in the distance, sneered in a low voice. A red light emitted from his body, and a red energy ball appeared in his right hand. The next second, the red energy ball was violently thrown away by him, flying straight towards Su Yao in the distance. Boom! Red energy is flying in the air, and the surrounding light is distorted. Seeing this scene, the soldiers perked up. Captain George had a sneer on his face, Captain Kenny raised the corners of his mouth, and number 1 glanced at them with indifference. However, the next second, something unexpected happened to all of them. Click, the sound of breaking glass was heard. Then, the red energy group that distorted the light changed its direction and rushed straight towards the chest of number 1, who looked indifferent. Boom. Red light exploded, and number 1 was violently knocked away. The figure flew in the air and hit the wall not far away. Captain George and others had dull faces. Suyao tilted his head and said, "What pulse?" That everyone, go to bed early and update during the day. End of this chapter. Chapter 50, The Sun Shines. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50 The Sun is Shining. Number 5 was enveloped in red energy, trying to block the decomposition of the light, not to mention, this has a little effect. The sunlight is blocked, and the decomposition is indeed slower, but the effect is not big. As the blocked red energy was decomposed, his body came into contact with the light and his flesh and blood scattered into particles inch by inch. Then he quickly recovered due to super speed healing, and the two were in a slight stalemate. It's just a pity that the decomposition speed is faster than the speed of his self-healing, and the situation is leaning towards destruction. Number 5 looked at the young man not far away in disbelief. During the huge surge of energy, the black clothes on the young man were flying with noisy sounds, giving him a sense of elegance. As if he could fly with him at any time, the terrifying aura and light surged out from his body, as if it could stop anyone trying to get close. Number 5 stretched out his right hand with difficulty and walked step by step towards the young man not far away, trying to stop him. Unfortunately, under the shroud of light, all his efforts were in vain. His flesh and blood began to dissipate, and his bones gradually emerged. The number 1 on the other side is not much better. Even worse than the number 5, no matter how solid the rock-colored metal body was, it was steadily dissipating at this moment. Most of it dissipated in a short period of time, exposing a large area of bones. While the yellow blood was flowing, his beating heart could still be faintly seen. With a groan of anger and unwillingness, his whole body fell to the ground. Bang! A few seconds later, his burly body also turned into particles. Number 5 stretched out his right hand with exposed bones, wanting to touch something, but in the end the movement froze. As he fell to the ground, his body quickly dissipated. At this moment, everything around me disappeared, the light gradually faded away and dimmed, and the black robe flying around Suyao gradually calmed down. When everything calmed down and the scene was quiet, there was nothing left where those people were. Silence, horror. Glancing at all the people who had disappeared, Suyao felt helpless as he felt the dry light energy in his body. The power of sunlight is great, but the consumption is really exaggerated. As long as the light energy is used, it is basically gone. Fortunately, the sunlight above his head was still shining, which allowed the light energy in his body to recover quickly. Otherwise, he really wouldn't know what to do. In addition to insufficient light energy, he also noticed something wrong with the use of sunlight this time. The red energy of number 5 can actually slightly block the power of the sun. And his self-healing ability also delayed the time for the sun to shine a lot. There is also number 1, when he decomposes his metal body, it is also much slower than ordinary people. It seems that sunshine still needs to continue to improve. Suyao secretly shook his head. Although sunshine has the essence of Omega level, in the final analysis it is only level 2, which is still a little lower in intensity. Having this level of power is already an exaggeration, and if it were level 5, those people probably wouldn't be able to hold on for even a second, and their whole people would turn into particles and fly into ashes. Glancing at the experience bar of sunshine, he began to look forward to the performance after sunshine reached level 3. At this time, Venom suddenly emerged from his right hand. On Venom's small head, the mouth full of sharp teeth opened wide, as if it could fit a basketball. He couldn't believe what he just saw. The young man in front of me is like a god. Don't talk yet. Suyao ignored him for the time being, but glanced at the sky. Just when he used the sunlight, he clearly felt that something in the sky was wiped out by the sunlight. It seems like several drones. Suyao frowned, feeling the energy that had recovered slightly in his body, and stepped forward to search around. 10 minutes later, he arrived at the roof of an unfinished building. Suyao frowned as he looked at some equipment on the ground that he had not had time to clean up. Is there anyone else? Standing on the roof of the building, Su Yaochao glanced around and found nothing suspicious. It seems those people ran away. He turned to look at Venom. Venom, can you sense suspicious people around you? Venom shook his head. Forget it. Su Yao frowned, then relaxed. It is estimated that those people cannot be found, and finding people is not what he is good at. Instead of thinking too much, it is better to speed up the level of sunshine and unlock the progress. If the sunshine is increased and the unlocking progress is increased to 100%, he will be more confident even if there is danger. Su Yao turned around and left the unfinished building. As he walked, he began to think, although we haven't killed everyone, I can still breathe a sigh of relief this time. Thinking of the disgusting Captain George and Captain Kenny, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Come on, there's still that experimental base. Su Yao's eyes flashed with light. He has not forgotten who the culprit who has been chasing him is. If he was not powerful enough now, he would have killed him long ago. While he was meditating, the Venom beside him couldn't bear it anymore. Recalling the previous scenes, he couldn't help but feel shocked. What kind of power is that? Incredible. It's like the power of God. Fear. Looking at Su in front of him, he felt that this host seemed to be filled with mist and mystery. Suddenly, Venom thought of something and said strangely, Su, you told me a few days ago that the distortion of the sunlight that time was an illusion. He thought again that he had complained not long ago that Su's body glowed like a light bulb. It turns out that it's not the light bulb that has such a terrifying power. Venom was stunned. When he first faced number 1 and number 5, even he felt desperate and thought it was going to be over. Unexpectedly, the moment the light enveloped the surroundings, even he felt suffocated. The power to destroy everything made him feel as if he had really seen the Lord and God in the mouth of mankind. Destroyed everything in an understatement, just like a god. The more he thought about it, the more shocked he was. That's your hallucination. Looking at Venom's cute little head, Su Yao replied casually. While they were talking, 3 people were running crazily 1 kilometer away from here. Hoo-hoo. Marco prison guard ran as fast as he could. At this moment, he covered his mouth with his hands. His eyes were full of fear, and he did not dare to stop. The other 2 soldiers were similar. At this moment, there was only fear in their eyes. Their minds were in chaos, and they were almost frightened to the point of insanity. They couldn't believe what they saw not long ago. End of this chapter.